Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inner Peace Pathways Book Club. We are on chapter 5 of the Tapping Solutions for weight loss and body confidence. And in today's discussion, we're going to talk about how events impact our weight and our body confidence. And on the screen right here is a list of the topics that we're going to discuss in this particular chapter. So let's get started. We'll start with a quote. No one feels strong when she examines her own weakness, but in facing weakness, you learn how much there is in you, and you find the blueprint for real strength. I really like this quote because I've had a lot of people say, "You're so strong. I can't believe that you've, been through everything you've been through." Well, it's not like I had a choice. But in this particular quote, when you face the weakness, you learn how much you have inside of you. And that gives you a blueprint for finding your own personal strength. And I really like how that's put. So let's talk about how events impact our body confidence. And we're going to be starting on page 81. I'm going to be messing with my reading glasses here and also, yeah, with the tapping. So I got my reading glasses on so I can actually see my book here. So most of us don't recognize that impact that events have on us until years or sometimes even decades later, when we start to unravel the areas of our lives where we feel dissatisfied. So sometimes it takes a really long time to figure out, yeah, that impacted me more than I think it should have. All of us have events that really made a big difference. And there are certain things I know that I find myself talking about or bringing up events over and over. And it's kind of the same ones. So that will be a clue right there to you that it's time to tap through those feelings and let them go. So let's go on here. The first one, the first event that we're going to talk about is in the book on page 82. And it's about a woman named Beverly. And Beverly got married and she had some stepchildren in the marriage. And she first started noticing that she was having problems with her weight loss, and the pounds just didn't seem to fall off anymore. And for her, the weight gain started in what she calls a step family from hell. And it was over 10 years of time, and she started living with 2 teenage children from a prior marriage. And the challenges she faced during that time seemed to just never go away. She had a stepson who sold drugs, and she struggled to find a positive, nurturing place for her stepchildren's troubled lives. Her husband wasn't any help, and he just retreated from this situation, and she felt really alone and unsupported. She was afraid that she was failing as a stepmother and her marriage wasn't thriving the way that she wanted it to. And she wanted to have her own children, but the situation kind of made her feel like that was something that would never happen. And Jessica talks about how when she was listening to Beverly's story, she was struck by how she titled it Step Family Hell. Sometimes when we have an event and we've given it a name, then we can actually use that name to tap on the entire event without having to go through all the specific steps of the event. It can just, like, the subconscious mind knows that everything that's involved with the step family from hell has to do with this particular event. So you don't have to necessarily get really specific about it. You can just use the title and clear the emotional charge behind the entire event by naming memories in a way that sums up how the experience felt. As she did, as Beverly did when she chose the name Step Family from Hell, you can often clear the emotional charges behind a collection of connected memories more quickly. Which, when I learned this kind of trick for clearing memories, I was really relieved and happy, because you don't necessarily then have to remember every little thing that happened. Your subconscious mind knows, and it can take care of the situation. The key to her success was that she could recall the time in her life and not feel physical stress in the present moment. So after clearing it, you will know that the event has cleared because the emotional charge is not there anymore. You've taken that out of it. You can remember the event, you can remember the lessons that you learned, but you're not emotionally involved in it. So according to neuroscience and the sort of overarching energy healing category, has discovered that your brain can't tell the difference between something that is real and something that you just remember. So when you remember an event and you haven't done the emotional work to clear it, your mind will release the chemicals of stress into the body just by memory alone. Your mind can't tell the difference between a thought with an emotional charge connected to it and the real event. So then it gets really tricky to understand how we can heal from these things, because it just replays over and over in your mind. But once you have done the work through EFT or many other emotional release modalities, then you can remember the event and it's not as emotionally charging. It's, yeah, not as emotionally charging to you anymore. So let's talk about the power of events, big and small. Sometimes big events can be obviously really triggering and upsetting and cause the emotional stress to come up. but also can small events. So things that deeply affect us, but they seem kind of minor. I was in a conversation on one of my Facebook groups, and they were talking about trauma and how trauma seems to be like the new buzzword. And I was sort of discouraged and upset by that. So I piped in and said, no, it's really not a buzzword. So how it works, how traumatic events work in the brain is if you have a traumatic experience and you don't clear the emotion, then it becomes like the engine of a train. And then other things come along and they can be related or even not related. And because you haven't taken the power out of the engine of the train, these other smaller events can come and hook themselves to the train. So when you recall the event that started the engine of the train in the beginning, it'll bring that up, and then the other car that has hooked to it. So this is why a lot of people will blow up over it seems like small things. They get really upset, more upset than they should. I know I have gotten more upset over situations that seem small, and it was because it was bringing up the original event plus everything that was hooked to it. So these small things, if we're not actually actively releasing them and letting them go, then you all of a sudden you're left with this huge trauma train that everything just seems to blow up all at once. And it's because of all of these small, seemingly small, disconnected events that have connected themselves to our brain. Because we start to, oh no, this happened, and then that happened, and then this happened. And even though you may not be aware of it, in the present moment, you might not be even aware that it's all of these things, but your brain starts to remunerate over every little event, and then it becomes something huge. So let's see, we're on page 83, and I have a note here, don't disappear on us. This is one of my stories for a seemingly small event. I had lost quite a bit of weight, about 50 pounds, and I was starting to feel really good about myself and very proud of my weight loss. And then someone at church said to me, oh my gosh, you've lost a lot of weight. And I was like, yeah, thanks. I feel great. It's awesome. And she was a much smaller person than I was. But then she said to me, don't disappear on us. And for whatever reason, that phrase, don't disappear on us, really stuck in my psyche. And it actually triggered a series of events where I started eating more because I was afraid I might disappear. And I learned later on through my own healing journey that I started to disappear because I was giving so much to other people that my needs and wishes and wants were being neglected. And so I felt like I was not disappearing physically, but disappearing emotionally. And that triggered something, that don't disappear on us triggered something in me that made me feel like I can't lose weight because I might disappear completely. And it was all hooked up to this other emotional stuff. So that's kind of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about smaller events. So they don't necessarily have to be big ones. They can be smaller ones. So one of the clients that Jessica worked with, I put my book here a little bit so I can see it. She says some clients and students are often surprised to discover how deeply they've been affected by seemingly minor events in their lives. And she talks about a woman, her name is Victoria, who had her own struggle with weight. And her first post-college landlord had said to her nearly 3 decades ago. So they don't necessarily even have to happen recently. They can be something that's happened in the past, and it just something someone said stuck with you. And her landlord said, "You don't deserve to live here." And she began turning towards food for comfort, afraid that she was unworthy of the good things in her life, as her landlord had suggested. So, but once she tapped through the emotions, she could recall the insult without feeling upset. And that's what you want to get to. You want to get to the point where you can tap through it and it relieves the emotional upset. She said, "I felt like a switch had flipped on in my brain. If there's an event that results in the belief that you don't deserve good things in your life, you will sabotage yourself every time you feel like something good is about to happen." So then she talked about how losing weight then became so much easier. So there are three tapping techniques that we're going to talk about starting on page 84. The first one is a direct tapping technique, and that's when you want to tap directly on a past event. You simply give the event a title that helps you access the feelings you had at the time. Getting that look, the hellish divorce, losing that job, and so on. When I found out that my ex-husband was cheating on me, I got tired of telling people like the whole story. And I actually named it "When My Life Blew Up," because it did. It blew up everything in my life, and that would kind of describe that situation. So before my life blew up or after my life blew up, I used that. So when you think about the event, what is your strongest emotion? You can have a variety of emotions, which is fine. But for now, focus on one that grabs most of your attention. And when you think about the event, how intense is the emotion on the SUD scale from 0 to 10? And then begin tapping, filling in the blanks with the title and the emotion. So just for making this as generic as possible, I'm just going to make up something that you can actually, let's just use even though. So even though I feel, let's see, I want to get this right. She says, begin tapping by filling in the blanks with the title and the emotion. Even though this thing happened to me and it made me feel a strong emotion, I love and accept myself. Even though this thing happened to me and I felt a strong emotion, I love, honor, and accept myself. Even though this event happened to me and it left me feeling these strong emotion, I love and accept myself. Okay, so that's kind of how you would frame that. And then she says, continue tapping while saying the title and what happened and how it made you feel until you can think of the event without experiencing the emotion. So this is how to directly attack it. So then we're going to tap through the points. Even though this event happened to me and it caused me to feel a really strong emotion, that event was so traumatizing. No wonder I feel the strong emotion. This event and this emotion have been causing me difficulty for a really long time. And so I choose now to let it go. I choose to honor myself by recognizing this event and the strong emotion. I honor those feelings. I honor how the event made me feel. It really upset me and caused me a lot of anxiety and grief. But I can choose to let it go. I choose now to let this emotion go. I choose now to not let this event cause me problems anymore. And then you can go back to your karate chop point. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. So this is how you would directly tap on an event so that you can just release the emotion, right as it comes up. So then the next time you feel a strong emotion about something, see if there is a title and a name you can give the event and the emotion associated with it. Let's see. I think I needed to move. Nope, we're going back. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, the next one is to tell the story technique. So imagine this as if you called a friend and you were telling them about something that happened to you that was really upsetting, and you're telling them the entire story. You can actually use this situation. You can even do it while you're talking to a friend on the phone and telling them the story. You can be tapping along with it to release the emotion. So while you're sharing your story, talk about what happened while you tap through the points. Once you feel calm and can tell the story without feeling an emotional charge, ask yourself if there was a positive lesson that you learned from this experience. What would that be? So this is really great because I know, like, I have a sister that I'm really close with, and we complain to each other all the time. And since I've learned this technique, I've started tapping for myself when I'm telling her a story, but I also tap for her while she's telling the story, and sending all of that healing energy towards her while while she's telling her stories. So you can even do that with your friends. The next one is a movie technique. And the movie technique was developed by Gary Craig, who's the founder of EFT, as a way of addressing specific events rather than global issues. So to do it, you run a movie of what took place in your mind. Create a movie of an event. Creating a movie of an event pretty much guarantees that you are dealing with just one specific event. A movie has a beginning and an end, and there's a central character who do and say specific things. And there is usually a crescendo or a peak moment in the movie. So this one's a little bit more, the process is more thought out than just the other two are like, you can just do them, but you would think this one out a little bit more. So you want to ask yourself a couple of questions. Could you make a short movie of this event? One great thing about this technique is that at no point in this movie is it necessary for you to tell or say the details out loud. So you don't even have to talk about it. You just play it in your mind. The critical part is the effect those details and any of the people involved had on your five senses. So focus on the sights, the sounds, the emotions, and physical feelings the characters are experiencing. Even what they're thinking or smelling or tasting. One thing I do with clients when a movie feels too intense is to have them imagine it in black and white and picture themselves sitting in the back row of the movie theater. And once they feel more comfortable with the black and white movie, they can add in color and lessen the distance between themselves and the movie screen. So the next question is, how long would the movie last? You want to make sure it's a short movie, 3 minutes or less. Often the key traumatic event in the movie is only a second long or seconds long. And if there are several traumatic moments, break the movie down into smaller pieces. And then the next question was, what would the title be? So create a name that is specific to the movie segment. And now turn your specific event into a short movie with a title. Run the movie in your mind and evaluate the intensity that you're feeling, 0 to 10. You can guess what your intensity would be if you vividly imagine it. Next, do several rounds of tapping on this movie and check back on the intensity. Typically, it will have come down by several points. Now run the movie in your mind again, starting from a point that has no intensity or very low intensity, and make sure to stop whenever you feel any intensity come up. This is really important. Most of us have lived with trauma from the past for so long, we don't even notice that we push ourselves through the story regardless of how we feel. Not anymore. With EFT, when we recognize these moments of intensity, we can use them as opportunities for tapping. So run through the movie in your mind again, beginning to end, and stop and tap on any intense aspects as they come up. Keep tapping until you can play the entire movie without any change in it. So we're going to start with, even though this movie is upsetting, I love and accept myself. Even though this movie is upsetting, I love and accept myself. Even though this movie has upset me, I love and accept myself. And then you just start tapping through the points. This movie, as you're thinking about and playing the movie in your mind, this movie, this movie. And if you get to a point in the movie where it's really upsetting, then name it. This part of this movie is very upsetting. This part was really hard. It's hard for me to watch. It's hard for me to remember. The whole thing was really upsetting. So once you've done that, and you want to keep doing it, keep going around through the tapping points until you can view the entire movie without any emotional charge in it. And then finally, you want to run the movie again. This time, exaggerate the sights, sounds, and colors. Really try to get upset about it. If you find some intensity, any intensity coming back up, stop and tap again. So it can be helpful to describe the movie out loud, but you don't have to. So be sure at any point that you get to that is upsetting, even if it's just a little bit upsetting, tap again until you're at 0, and then continue your movie narration. As we explore more deeply how past events may have shaped your relationships with your weight, let's look next at the flip side of your weight loss journey. What may have happened as a result of prior weight loss? So I don't know about you, but if you've been on this weight loss journey over your lifetime, if it's been something that has been something that you've dealt with for a really long time, then chances are you experience failure with the weight loss. Sorry about that. That's my alarm. So you have experienced failure before, and that can be something that sabotages you as well. So ask yourself, what happened the last time I lost weight? And that's, let's go to page 88. Let's see. Some of our past failures make us scared to even try again, because we just feel like, what's the use? Why am I doing this? It's never going to work. It has nothing I have tried before has worked. And we get into this mindset of it's useless or hopeless or whatever. So I want you to think about the last time that you tried to lose weight. What was your experience? Weight loss and healthy habits should work for us and not against us. So what happens when we attribute meanings to events that happened simultaneously? And she's talking about a girl in the book, in the story, who was diagnosed with cancer while she was losing weight. And so her weight loss journey got tied up in her survival of cancer. And so the last time that she tried to lose weight, she got sick. And then it becomes more complicated because she was eating right. She was exercising. She was doing all the things that she felt like she's supposed to do, but she still got sick. And that's extreme for most of us. It's something like the last time we tried to lose weight and failed, and it didn't work. So take a moment and ask yourself, what happened the last time I lost weight and or felt healthy? So write down what you discover and then use these as your tapping targets. This is why I talk about a tapping journal, because you can, when you write down the things that are upsetting you, you can then use those as your tapping targets. We'll talk about that a little bit later. If nothing comes to mind, then you don't need to worry about it. You just need to keep reading. So if you can't think of anything right now, that doesn't mean that you have a problem to get over it. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's this part doesn't affect you, or other parts. Don't get upset because you don't have something to work on. Sometimes we don't, and that's okay. But let's look at this a tapping script to get started. So rate the emotional intensity of the last time you tried to lose weight, or any of the times that you tried to lose weight and it didn't work out. So we're gonna say, even though something happened the last time I lost weight, I love and accept myself. Even though something happened the last time I lost weight, I love and accept myself. Even though something happened where I didn't feel successful the last time I lost weight, I love and accept myself. So this bad thing that happened, I was feeling so good. And then it backfired. This resistance to losing weight has come up again. Parts of me want to lose weight again. Part of me doesn't. I'm afraid I might fail. I don't want to repeat what happened. I don't want it to be like last time. Let's see. It doesn't feel safe to lose weight. And that's a lot of the issue that we have, is we don't feel safe. And when we don't feel safe, our brain will actually work against us. It will find excuses and ways to help you not have to deal with it because it doesn't feel safe. So it's really important that you take care of any issues that you had from previous times, because the last time isn't this time. And things are different. So when the intensity of your initial tapping target is 5 or lower, then you can move on to the positive side. So the positive side can look like this. Maybe this time it will be different. Maybe it was never about the weight. It's always been about me. I have learned so much from my past experiences. I take in the lessons and release the pain. Under the arm. Hard to hold book and do this at the same time. This time it will be different. Top of the head. I feel safe and confident within my own power. These are so powerful. Again, look at the intensity and check in. with how you feel, measure, and continue tapping until you experience relief. So let's go on to the next thing. So events that you can't pinpoint. This is tricky. So when you have an event that you can't actually put your finger on what happened, it can become tricky. Sometimes weight slowly becomes a problem as the stress in our life builds. When this happens, there's no need to remember a specific event or a period of time to get results. If you can't pinpoint something, you can tap on the limiting beliefs about it. And we're going to talk more about limiting beliefs in the next chapter. So just kind of hang on to that and we'll continue on. Just know that there are sometimes events that don't, that we aren't able to pinpoint something specifically, and there is a way to fix it. So when words hurt, lots of times people say things to us and they're very hurtful and they don't necessarily know that they've hurt you. So we're gonna talk about that. This whole story that Jessica talks about, how her mentor, so someone who was actually trying to help her, said, "You're fat and no one is going to listen to you if you're fat." That was the advice her former mentor gave her when I was 20 years old. And she was volunteering at a wellness and nutrition conference. As the two young men standing nearby looked down in embarrassment, I quickly blurted out, "My weight isn't stopping me. I still get guys." And while that wasn't quite accurate, it was all I could think of to say. "That's because you have big boobs," he said. So it gets worse. Like, she is first called fat, and then he's like, "It's because you have big boobs." And she said that left her speechless and desperate for a way out. And then, but he continued, "I'm just saying this because if you want to make an impact in this world and speak on stage, being fat will take away from your message. People will only be able to focus on your weight." This is jaw-dropping. Like, these aren't just hurtful words, they're cruel. She said, "Looking back on that moment, I understand that his words were hurting me as deeply as they did because I believed them before he even said them. Instead of having an appropriate response of healthy anger and not tolerating such obscenely unnecessary attack, I let those words tear me down because I felt like they were true. I had always spent years obsessing over my body, making it into the obstacle standing between me and my future. Because I felt powerless to change my weight or even express my anger, I resorted to rebellion and I told myself I would prove him wrong and become successful without losing weight. If I lost weight, that would prove him right, and that was unacceptable. So then this rebellion becomes like a self-sabotage. She said, "Looking back now, I see how he was wrong. And there are incredible women who change the world without fitting into a particular size. And even as I tried to prove him wrong, I was still allowing his words to impact me. And the key was to let go of what he had said so I could act in a way that was best for me, not being controlled or losing your power to someone else. Finding the best way to rebel against him or making him happy for that matter could never serve me. So The journey to true body confidence needs to be about meeting our own needs and desires and not accepting or rejecting other people's ideas. When we use tapping to clear the emotional impact or hurtful words that have been hurled at us, we sometimes need to first process multiple levels of the same experience. One student in my class announced one day, several weeks into the program, that she had made a major breakthrough after being told by her late husband that no one would ever love her because she was too fat. She shared that she finally loved herself at a deeper level and was ready for romantic love. And then she added that she was ready to prove him wrong. I quickly pointed out that if she had the belief she needed to prove him wrong, she would never take care of herself and lose the weight she so badly wanted to lose. She would unconsciously rebel against losing weight because losing weight would mean her husband was right, that men could only value her for her body. If her weight loss journey was about him or men in general and not about her, long-term weight loss would feel like an uphill battle. I suggested that using tapping, she could continue to process and clear the emotional scars her late husband's hurtful words had left. So we've got to be aware of the things that have wounded us that other people have said. And people can be so mean. When I graduated from high school, I weighed 105 pounds. I was a little bitty. And my stepfather had terrible things to say about my body. He would call me fat. He would call me lazy. He would say your thighs are so big you could be a linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. And it was just rude. See, this is what I'm talking about. Stories that we keep bringing up over and over, when we talked about it before. When painful memories send you back in time, the amygdala in your brain goes on high alert, preparing to protect you from any danger. What you need to do is to train the amygdala to recognize that those memories are not actually danger. By tapping on the hurtful words that someone said to you, you're giving your brain new instructions. This is so important. Like, this is critical. If there's one thing that you would learn about the brain and how it works and keeping you safe, it's this. You are able to give your brain new instructions, telling it that the memory is no longer a threat and that you can now feel safe when remembering those words. Often, when you clear a significant emotional burden, you will experience a physical release, such as crying or shaking. As you continue tapping through your memory, you will find that hurtful words lose their power. And that's what this is really all about, is you're training your mind and your brain and your body to let loose of these painful memories and events so they no longer have power over you. That's what you want to achieve through EFT, is to take the power out of it. So let's do a little bit of tapping on hurtful words people said. And you can begin tapping while repeating the words until you can say them and feel calm in the moment. So feel free to fill in the blanks below. This is page 93. And create a personal tapping script. It's easier to begin writing them down on a separate piece of paper, and you're welcome to do that if it's easier. So you can name the person. Even though so-and-so said to me, I love and accept myself. Even though this person said these words to me that hurt my feelings. I love and accept myself. Even though, name the person, said, name what they said to me. I love and accept myself. And then you just start tapping these words were said to me, and it hurt. It hurt so bad. I still remember them however many years later. I'm ready now to let it go. These words no longer have power over me. I release them, let them go. So we're often too quick to jump to forcing ourselves to forgive and forget because we don't want to admit how much the words hurt. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to express anger as you tap. Don't move to the positive unless the positive statements feel true. And this is so important because your subconscious mind won't accept a lie. So if you're not being true to yourself, your subconscious mind's not going to let you get away with that. Just know that. So if you're still feeling a physical charge, remember to set a scale of 0 to 10 on intensity. If it hasn't come down below a 5, you want to keep going. Like every time you check in with yourself, ask yourself, what's the intensity? If you're not down below a 5, then you want to keep going. But if you've gotten to a 5 or lower, then move on to the positive statements. So those words don't have any power over me unless I give them power. I'm taking my power back. If they are this hard on me, I can only imagine how hard they are on themselves. These words are not a reflection of me. Their words are a reflection of themselves. And lastly, I have compassion for what they must be going through. So, and then that brings us to the last part of this chapter. Oh yeah, this is really good too. Our parents, our children, our spouses, and our friends will continue to press every button we have until we realize what it is that we don't want to know about ourselves yet. They will point us to our freedom every time. So if people are pressing your buttons and causing you physical pain, emotional pain, it's because they're pointing out something that we don't want to look at and that we need to look at so that we can let it go. Oh, did I miss? Oh, no, it's all in this page. Moving towards compassion, how to forgive. This is on page 94. As we clear the emotional sting of hurtful words through tapping, it's helpful to guide ourselves towards a place of compassion for the person or people who've hurt us. If you experience any resistance to this idea, that's an indicator that you need to keep tapping on the words. So if you're feeling like you can't, at least have a little compassion for the person who said it, then you still need to keep working. I really like, if they're this hard on me, I can only imagine how hard they must be on themselves. When I did this process with a client whose mother had always wanted her to be a Southern belle, she cringed at how harsh her mother's own self-talk must have been. Feeling compassion for the person who said the hurtful words to you makes forgiveness a gentle process and allows you to take your power back in a warm and loving way. She says, Jessica says, I'd like to stress again, though, that too often we try to jump too quickly into compassion. Allow yourself to feel anger or hurt while you tap. Only when you feel like you can say those words without a physical reaction can you begin to open up to compassion and forgiveness. So you can't just jump into compassion and forgiveness without doing the inner work on yourself. And then the last part of this is nipping the little things in the bud. So going forward, if someone says something to you that is difficult, then nip it in the bud. Like, don't allow it to sit and fester or allow yourself to fret over something that was said or done to you. Take care of it right then. It takes a toll on our health and our well-being, and it's best to just do it like when it happens. And she says, for example, you could experience something like this. After you've been working long hours for weeks, your boss sends you a harsh email and you're furious. You get home and you're angry, and all you want to do is shut out the world and grab a snack and get comfy on the couch. And instead of snapping at your family and inhaling your food, you could use tapping to process the emotional response to your boss's email. It can often be as simple as reading the email to yourself while tapping. This will help clear the event before it can have a large negative impact on you. So the next step that we're looking at is focusing on limiting beliefs. And so that's in the next chapter, and we will see you then. Bye for now, and happy tapping.